a very popular community Diablo podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Diablo Podcast. I'm your host, Xanth, and I am joined today by my loving co-host, Neinball,
Oh, hi.
and noted streamer, noted whale, noted crow eater, and notably present, Nerdwards.
And I made it this time. Hi, hello. Hi, everyone.
And we are, of course, brought to you by PureDiablo.com, your home for an ever-growing Diablo community, an expansive wiki, and, of course, this very popular community Diablo podcast. Gentlemen, we've spent a glorious, what? I have to do some quick math here, 60 plus hours in Diablo 4. If we combine the both weekends a little bit more. And we go into the dark. We are in the wilderness now, Diablo 4-less. It's a sad time. I don't know about you guys. I don't know what I'm going to do. What are we supposed to do?
I'm gonna play Warhammer.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the Elo hell of WoW Arena and probably Apex Legends. Might finish Hogwarts, but yeah, it is definitely sad season for sure.
I've been dabbling a little bit in Last Epoch just to kind of get my ARPG fix. Still playing Diablo 2 on the treadmill, but it just doesn't hit the same. Doesn't hit the same. Um, but that's okay because we've got a lot of screenshots to keep us going. So introducing a new segment and something that we will roll out with release. Gentlemen, it's time to show off your Diablo drip. That's cool kids slang. I will pause for any cringe that needs to happen. If there's a graphic that Rush puts together, that'd be great. But if not, we'll just roll with it.
Yeah.
If I knew that was gonna how you were open it, I wouldn't have submitted a picture.
Yeah, I was gonna say a bunch of let's put it mildly, middle-aged Caucasian men talking about drip is one thing. You could definitely tell you're a teacher. That's the second thing. But yeah,
cool. I'm hip. I'm with it. I know the slang.
Yeah. What is up, fellow kids? We have drip.
What's up,
and
youths?
stuff.
I'm a huge fan of alliteration. Okay, Diablo drip works really well. Ooh, no cap. Okay, dead ass.
No.
Full send.
Oh my god.
And then
All
if
right.
we could all dab during this, that would be great.
No.
Tough.
No.
It's tough.
No. Okay, so we're going to border on cringe, but I do like this concept. So one of the main criticisms against Diablo 4 when it was announced, when they were talking about monetization, was the item shop and paying for cosmetics. And what I think we've started to find is you're able to make your character look really good without spending any single cent, right? So what I'm asking is that as we get going with this, we highlight what our characters actually look like, why we've kind of made those choices. We don't have to go into the actual specifics of items if you don't want to. So we'll start with my here. So what you will see is my big burly druid with his like wolf kind of pelt with horns on top. And then you've got your another air pelt armor, big old belt buckle. I'm a big fan for big belt buckles. And really, what I was just trying to do is go with that same kind of aesthetic, like covered in pelts, as I imagine a druid to be. Now, the original colors of this were just kind of all over the board. I loved the ability to kind of go in and customize to whatever color selection I liked. Um, I felt like the orangish tan kind of colors were fun, but I always found myself going back to white. Maybe it was because I was in Kyovashed and being in all of the snow areas kind of felt like that was natural. But this was awesome. I was able to put this character together with a hodgepodge of gear. Like I don't have amazing legendaries. This is all just base. And I was really happy
you are
with it.
playing a druid, so it's really difficult to get amazing legendary. Sorry, it's tough.
Oof.
Oh, it's tough.
It is. We are in the middle of the. This is the cringe part. You don't go in and just go full on attack right
Sorry,
now.
my bad. Like, it's too easy.
This is
Too
this is
easy.
where the one moment I get to revel before we have to kind of dig in. Um, but this is what I was able to put together. Uh, Curious because we all submitted different pictures, and we'll get to each one of yours. What did your druid look like by comparison? Were you pulling some of the same looks?
So I actually did play a druid, and I did get to 25. I made myself do it, and there were 2 good legendaries.
I cleaned
There were
my
at least
plate, Mom. It's
there were at least 2. So before everyone jumps down my throat, I promise I gave it a shot. I like to fully understand something before I talk shit about it, right? Like I read the Twilight books so that I could accurately rip it to shreds. So for me, I needed to play the druid. I will say it actually was a lot of fun. I genuinely enjoyed it. My look was very different though, because I have a weird, and I have like weird headcanon for a lot of my characters. But as a druid, right, you're one with nature. I find it weird to wear the skins of dead critters as a druid. I mean, that seems par for the course for the most part. But my druid was like no helmet shown, lots of like tattoos, had pants on, and a giant mace, but just had like really like big tribal markings. And I thought looked pretty cool. But I'll be honest, while it does look like you have like a paw bra, and definitely like every druid has cankles. Other than that, I think it looks great. Yeah.
word I would use is stout. He's very stout.
Yeah,
That's what I
still
like.
cankles though. You couldn't avoid the cankles though. Every option that there was definitely some cankle action going on. So
The big calves. Neinball,
big
what's your
caps.
druid?
Mine looked like nothing.
Neinball didn't play a druid. What are you talking
I
All
about?
right.
didn't play a druid, nor did I play a rogue.
Okay. Fair enough.
Um,
All right, so let's jump to you, Nerdwords. What character do you want to highlight for your Diablo drip? You gave us 3.
I gave
Let's
you
just
3.
focus on one.
I had far more than 3. But we're gonna focus on my super edgelord red sorcerer cosplay.
Okay.
Basically I wanted to take the most ridiculous. I always have missions with my transmogs, which is to take a piece and build around said piece. So, and there were really, to be honest with you, terrible helmet options for a sorcerer. I didn't like almost any of them. And this one was extra stupid, but it looked very like summoner-esque. So I definitely went with the weird horned helmet, and then just kind of like went from there. But for me, this was my third sorcerer, second or third. And I went full fire build from the jump, so I kind of was like living in the fire realm, right? And I even did like the tattooed markings, because like for some reason this chest piece just opens like bare chest, like your Hasselhoff or something. So I wanted to have some cool like markings going on there. So I definitely enjoy that. I've always liked the book codex, right? I've always thought those were cooler than orbs. There's something cool about having a book and like murdering things while you're reading. I've always thought that's pretty interesting. And then I put the edgelord makeup on just because he definitely shops at Hot Topic. So yeah.
I think I do like that concept of like using a color throughout. And I will say, like, if this was a different game, that looks like a set. Like it looks like something you would have earned in Diablo 3 for, like Tal Rasha's or something like that.
yeah, and it's low level too. I just love how it's for those listeners at home that are not looking at the video portion. It's obvious that Nerdwords just wants his own
Yep, I do.
cultist
It's
robe. He's projecting with this transmog.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. But you know what? We're out here living our best life in Diablo 4. I might not have one in real life. That's fine. But my character can look kind of like, he's a part of Daddy and Eris's church.
I also kind of get the villain from Time Bandits vibe.
Hell yes. Hell yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm into that. I'm into that.
So now I will point out for our audio listeners, if you're listening on Spotify, just click ahead a little bit. We're living at a very visual medium just at this moment. I apologize. We will do our best to use adjectives to describe these, but right now red and sorcerer, and that's about it.
Yeah.
I
it
like
is
I
what it
like
is.
how Xanth goes through, shows his, gives Nerdwords the opportunity to describe his, and then when it comes to mine, Xanth is just like a skip forward.
Wasn't intentional,
Sure, sure.
Sure.
Now
Sure.
who's projecting?
but you can skip ahead. Uh, okay, now, why don't you walk us through your Diablo drip?
Yeah, I picked the helmet that had skulls on it. I picked the shoulders that had skulls on it. Then I got the
Makes sense.
pants that had skulls on it, with the weapon that had a skull on it.
There's a
I
theme
will
here.
say it does look really cool. I only played just a little bit of Necromancer, and I did notice as I was playing just a little bit in the wardrobe, and like uh, I I found myself I think choosing those kind of exact pants of like, oh, it's got skull, and I'm going to choose that one. On the shoulder,
Yeah,
is there a skull? I'm gonna choose that one. That seems cool. They
Yeah.
like the old bone helms in Diablo 2. It didn't matter that they weren't amazing. I just wanted the skull helmet. I was playing a necromancer. I wanted the skull helmet.
yeah.
It looks cool.
And it's one of those ones where it's like the pieces as well were just like, again, it's just like normal gear that you find. Not even, I liked it better than, there was a legendary that I found that had like a skull helmet, but this one was just cooler. It's all, so
Yeah.
it's basically, it's like metals, it's metals and cloth. It's just like cloth armor with like metal inlays and such. And so all the metal is gold and the cloth is just kind of like a drab black, kind of like a faded black.
Just love
And I
the
even like,
skulls just hanging off your butt a little bit there. That's cool.
yeah. And then also I kind of liked it where I don't really know what they are, but like on the front of like the cloth for the pants, like the front like loincloth, it's like a whole bunch of like coins that are like sewn into the front of it.
No,
Not as like an actual like mesh, but like just like they're woven in.
this is
And
the
like,
equivalent of like the Diablo 4 punk rock kid who's got patches all over his denim jacket. This is the
yeah.
necromancer variant of that. That's what it is.
It's just like how many cultures have it where you put like the coins in the eyes, or the coin in
Yeah.
the mouth for the person
Yeah.
that dies or anything like that, and so it just kind of like gave me like those vibes. So I really liked it. I enjoyed it.
And I think
Solid.
worth repeating, not a single dollar was spent on any of this. There were a lot of different customizations as I was going through. I was like, oh, I'd like to,
Yeah,
that
but
looks
no pants though. Can we just talk about the fact that I just want to wear pants? There was like very few. I mean, they all have pants on, right? But they all had like some sort of like drapery over them. Like Blizzard, if you're here to hear me, I need just some pant options, just some basic pant options, because like maybe I don't want to wear a skirt as a barbarian.
just some
Uh,
nice khaki slacks.
right. Just, or in the case of the Necro, right? Just give me some nice black skinnies, right? It would work out
This
great.
is
But
this is
maybe,
actually the exact opposite problem I had with Transmog in World of Warcraft, where my Death Knight who wore plate, I just wanted to wear robes, and there were like 2 robe options in the whole game.
yeah,
So
yeah.
all of my color palettes had to revolve around those 2 transmogs.
Well, we only had till level 25, right? So there's still a lot of pieces. You can even see there's a lot of unlocked pieces on the transmog tree to go yet. But my biggest knock from 1 to 25 is apparently until you're like 25 plus at least, there's not a lot of options for just pants. So yeah, that was my only gripe. But yeah, I thought the transmog system was really good. I want to see what options there are once we get to end game. Because I definitely felt limited. Like there were some good options, and there were some pretty trash options too. But we only got to 1 to 25, right? There's gonna be cosmetics and stuff you earn as you play the game, and different things like that too. So I'm sure it's gonna flesh out pretty nicely. But hey, it was fun to kind of play dress up in the limited capacity that we could. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, and obviously, we will return back to this as we go live with what our characters happen to look like. I'm anticipating that we'll probably get a few podcasts in before our characters are fully complete to kind of see that evolution of what that character ends up being. Uh, Now, Nerdwards, you were not here last week. Before we kind of dig into a little bit about class balance, as that is our kind of focus, we want to talk a little bit about the classes themselves and our takes on them, and hot
Oh
takes,
boy.
just feel. But after waiting so long, you finally got to play. How was it?
Really good.
Okay, and now
I can. It's just right. Yeah. I mean, look, there's a lot that I could say about it.
People
and I don't,
skipped my transmog just to
for
hear you
this,
say
right?
really good.
Really
Yeah.
good. Yeah, that's it. By the way, thank you for everyone that has skipped to this point so far. Hopefully you enjoyed skipping over that, and I would just like to say that it was really good. No, I realistically, like, I have notes, like 2 or 3 pages of notes. I could talk for at least 6 of these podcast episodes about my thoughts one way or the other, and I'm still not sold one way or the other. Like, I mean, I'm gonna play the hell out of this game. I played the hell out of the beta. I mean, I hit first weekend, I hit 25 on the Sork first and foremost, and I went an off build intentionally, knowing what the sauce was. Because coming into the beta, I kind of knew what the sauce was going to be. So I went like a pure lightning build, which was so much fun to play. It was really, really good. Turns out there's kind of some sauce in that too. But then I leveled a barb, leveled a rogue. All the classes felt really nice, right? And then I just grinded on the sorcerer, just trying to see what I could do from a level 25 standpoint, min-maxing, enchanting gear, rolling stuff, rolling aspects into legendaries, things like that, and really just trying to get really powerful. And then the next weekend came, and I leveled another sorcerer right away. And then I leveled the druid and the necromancer, and then I leveled a hardcore sorcerer as well. And yeah, it was really good. I definitely enjoyed the beta. I could have kept playing the 1 to 25 experience. I honestly could have. Like, I was still like having fun, just kind of grinding, just trying to find out the most optimal dungeons to run and reset and that sort of stuff. So that was cool. I could again go on forever about the pros, cons, what's good, what's bad, but I had a lot of fun with it, and I'm definitely chomping at the bit to get the full game for sure. But yeah, if we want to go into more detail later, I can do that. But yeah, that's long and short of it for now.
So the Nerdwards manifesto will be posted underneath. No, I'm doing that. We'll 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 dig into it. Like and subscribe. Anyways, it is good to hear though. You got to play, you got to enjoy it, and now we wait. Now we
Yep.
wait. I am so before we kind of dig in, if we're looking at general news, I'm very curious to see what they do to kind of cover this 2 month gap because there's a lot of excitement. People are talking. I don't think they're going to go completely dark. We've seen a lot of cool promotions. I'm curious to see if we'll get more of that. Maybe another developer Q&A, maybe some more playthroughs with different media organizations. Kind of get some more insight. Maybe we'll see more of the end game. They did say that they wanted to come and do that once the betas were over, so I'm excited to see what
Mhm.
that actually looks like. The only thing we know 100% is there's one last Hell's Inc. event in Seattle on the 15th of April. So if you're in the Seattle area, you can go out, get a tattoo, and then something. The bigger premise for all of these events was you got access to the game in some way. When I went, it was access to a beta plus the ultimate edition of the game. The newest ones, you got the beta, you got a bunch of swag. Uh, so I don't know what the additional part is for this one. I'm kind of curious to see. It was the fan chosen city. So something tells me it can't just be swag. It's got to be swag plus something.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And I will keep my eyes on it. And if you're in the Seattle area, definitely go. Go do this. It is fun. Okay. So we talked a little bit about classes last podcast, but we got 2 more this time. And I'm gonna pull host rank. I'm gonna do it. We're gonna talk about the Druid first. Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
There
Plenty
are
to talk about. That's for sure.
there are 12
Yeah.
of us that care about the Druid.
I think after the beta, I think it's 11.
Yeah, yeah. It might actually. I might be 1. It might have went down.
Okay, so
Might just be Xanth.
hoods
Because
off.
it damn sure
I-
isn't the development team. Oh,
Okay.
I just before we get started, I just have to go through and continue to rag on Xanth on this one because you were going through and you were going. I was like, see, Pez is gonna play Druid. You're all like, Pez is gonna play Druid at launch, and you know what Pez said after the beta? I
Rogue
can't
or
decide
Necro.
between a druid or a rogue. The
Yeah.
choice it started getting hedged out.
So you might be the only one now. Yeah, it's tough.
I just get all the druid drops for myself. Okay, so I think we're alluding to the general conception or misconception that the druid is a weak class. Now, I think what has happened since the beta happened last week and then has concluded now is we are very quick to tier these bugs, right? Um,
Sure.
we want to say what is the most powerful, what is the least powerful, and I don't think we really have a full picture. Uh, in 1 to 25, yes, the druid does not seem uh, to be on the same level in terms of clearing and stuff like that by comparison to a necromancer. That
Right now in the beta, right? Which
Right.
could definitely completely shift by live. But all we have right now is the beta. So
Right.
yeah.
No, absolutely.
And I mean, shit. I mean, nothing could even change between the beta and live, and it doesn't even matter because it's 1 through 25.
True, but well, we need to get into it first, but yeah.
I think we will, but I think it is. We know the way the story works that you can depart the fractured peaks earlier than 25. We can be going in to the other areas, and what we will have access to is different dungeons with different aspects as well.
True.
The druid aspects that we had access to within the fractured peaks weren't exactly what I would call build defining, and I think having access to something maybe in a different zone might open it up a little bit, but I'm just going on assumptions. I could be wrong. I will state that I did a few druids and I played hardcore 100%. I lost. I did die once during the beta. I lost a level 21 druid. Just kind of got overwhelmed and just dead. But I did get one right back up to 25. Uh, I had a hell of a time playing. Not like all the time in terms of it being difficult. I really just enjoyed it. In terms of the class fantasy, I really enjoyed going full on werebear, loading up on skills that were going to reduce all damage coming in, and then feeling like this tank. I wasn't super quick at clearing, but I felt like very sturdy. And that to me was fine. I'm okay if I don't clear as fast as the necromancer who could do the blood mist, corpse explosion thing entirely. If I can walk into a room, and I had that experience with the butcher, like the butcher threw himself up against me. And from all I had seen of weekend one, it was like, oh, I'm going to die. This is it. But I reduced his damage down to nothing. I didn't take a single potion. I was able to kind of sit there and smack on him. Debilitating roar, hurricane. Um, Actually, I don't even think I even had hurricane at the time because I was like level 13 when I encountered him. Uh, but that was cool. Like that was an experience I like. That's the druid I've been looking forward to, was that kind of experience. Um, so for me, the tiering out when it comes to the class is not as big of a deal yet. Is it possible? You know, we reach level 50 when we're putting in all of our points, and we've got better gear that the druid just doesn't hang with all the other classes. Sure. I think if they see that, they can fix it, or alter it. But I'm not, and we're going to get into like general shit takes later on, but I'm not, I'm not worried, I guess. I'm not worried about the druid class. I don't think I've chosen incorrectly. It may not be, we talked a little bit about it last podcast. If it's an A tier build and it's never S tier, and I still like just playing that fantasy, I'm gonna go for it. Okay, so I've I've done that. I've talked about it. Now you can shit on it.
I'm not gonna shit on it. I'm not gonna shit on it. I don't think Nine is either because he didn't even fucking play it. So there's that. But here's what I'll say.
Well, so I didn't play it, but Neve did.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what was Neve's take? What did she think? We
Well,
should have
she's
had her on
never
the
really,
podcast.
yeah.
Have
She's
her come
never
join.
really, yeah. So Neve's experience is playing through the storyline of Diablo 3 and Reaper of Souls, and that's about it. Yeah.
So casual experience, sure.
Yeah, casual experience. She had fun going through playing the druid, though she did struggle a bit going through and trying to play it. Like literally just going through and like putting points into, I think it was Maul, and then
that was the basic attack.
Yeah, the basic attack, and then the werebear core skill because she wanted to play werebear. Pulverize, yeah, and
Which was sick. But
yeah, but it was definitely rough. It was rough going through watching her play and like struggle to like kill some elites and stuff because it just was like, it definitely had some issues. It didn't, it felt. I think she had a little bit better when we went and looked up some builds and changed like the skills around and such. It wasn't as intuitive, because it's like I just want to be werebear, so I'm just gonna put everything into werebear skills, and that's not the best course of action, So it definitely was. I think it was, if anything else, it just didn't feel as intuitive as the other classes, where you could just build a frost, sorceress or a bone necro and just do well,
Right.
You had some issues.
Did she play other classes as well, or just?
No, she just played the druid. I think like up to like 17 or so.
So I played the druid up to 25, and I definitely enjoyed it. I definitely felt a huge change in the character dynamic when I got the pulverized legendary. There was a legendary that allowed pulverize to hit in like a wave, right? So like you smash the ground with both fists, which was really cool. The first enhancement of it overpowers it, which you do crazy damage like that. You even stun elites and things like that, which is really good. And then it like echoes out in a wave, which just did massive damage. That was really cool. But it was rough. It was rough. And the funny part is, you talk about the survivability. It's not even the most survivable class. Not even by like Rogue is going to be way tankier. Sorcerer with all the shields and stuff, like those classes were far tankier than the Druid was. I could stand there and do nothing, and nothing could kill me on my Sorcerer, on my Necro, on my Rogue, even, right? Like, with all the different defensives that those classes have. So I get your idea and your fantasy, and I'm with you on it. That's awesome. But like, I didn't feel that as a druid, like running through and doing dungeons and stuff, I felt like I was squishy as hell. I'm popping Earth and Ward, right? I'm popping the debilitating roar and like all these different defensives, and they just didn't feel impactful. And CCing things didn't really make much of a difference because you want kind of everything. I was going the werebear build too, right? Like, which obviously was not optimal. Once I kind of like, honestly, the build worked a lot better if you mixed in some different kind of sauce, right? Like if you were like werebear with Maul, but then you went like tornado, that was cool. But let's be honest, tornado, any sort of tornado in any Diablo game is ass because of the unpredictability of where it goes. Now, there's a great legendary that allowed the tornadoes to target enemies, which was really cool. But if you didn't have that, it was kind of ass. But I did find like a better groove with doing like Maul with Tornado as my spender. So I'd like Maul stuff and then just toss a Tornado down an alley and it'd wipe everything out if I was lucky, or it'd run off the path and I was fucked, right? So it just kind of depended. It was absolutely the slowest leveling experience. I got my by the time I leveled my third sorcerer, I was able to get him like 3 hours, like 3 hours, something like that, like from 1 to 25. Druid took me almost 6. It was rough. It was really bad. And while yes, 1 to 25 is not the telltale of the whole game, absolutely, we had one act, so there's a lot more powers, but no class had a very impactful power for the codex from dungeons, I would say. Like, there wasn't one class that I played was like, I have to go get that. There was the sorcerer chain lightning one that was good, but as you went late game, you kind of replaced it anyway, so it wasn't a big deal. Or, well, I say late game, 25, right? Late game in the beta.
Yeah.
But the druid, for me, it was. I thought the coolest part about it was the fantasy, right? Like, we talked about it kind of pre-show a little bit, but the fur, like when you're smashing stuff and your fur gets like coated in blood and like all that stuff, that was absolutely incredible. And that was probably cooler than most other classes. Like as a sorcerer, you weren't really getting covered in blood and guts like that, right? But the bear druid was. You're smacking something and you just get like just blood all over you. It was really interesting and cool. And again, I didn't hate the experience, but if I'm a casual Diablo player and I'm wanting to rock a druid, 1 to 25 was pretty rough. And I'm thinking if I get to 10 and I'm like, you know what, let me try something else. Because there's a lot of people I know that are planning to play every class at like level 10 or 15 and then make their decision. There's no way in hell anyone's going to play Druid. There's no way, right? And I have friends that are Diablo veterans that tried it. I have friends that have never played a Diablo game. They're mostly WoW or Diablo or Destiny players that tried it. And nobody is coming out playing a Druid. And I had a few friends who were really hyped for it. So they really got to look at tuning it. But the other problem that honestly I saw through the whole thing is that it's by comparison, right? Druid on its own is probably fine, but there's just some really great class design in some of the other classes. So it really overshadowed what the Druid could do and really their entire toolkit. And the other part of it is too is, okay, 1 to 25, right? You don't really get all the skills. But you kind of do, right? Like going 1 to 25, you kind of unlock every tree. You don't really get full access to all the ultimate skills depending on how you build it out, but
Yeah.
you kind of do. And that's the thing I think that got me the most was that like there's whole sections or trees where I'm just like, I don't want any of this shit. Like one of them was like you could pick ravens, you could pick wolves, or you could pick vine creepers, and then passives. The passives were ass, but they were at the most compelling look because the wolves were shitty, the ravens were shittier, and vine creeper. I don't even want to talk about vine creeper. That shit was whatever. I think the coolest ability was the boulder, right? Like I think once you unlocked boulder, that was a pretty significant power change. But overall, it was definitely, and not just trying to shit on Xanth. We give Xanth a lot of shit. We love you. But really, like, and not like all jokes aside, Druid was the worst class in the beta to me. Absolutely. And really needs a look to make it more compelling to the average player. The hardcore Druid fans are going to play it. All three of you guys, you're going to have a lot of fun. But if they want anyone else to play it, they've got to do some significant overhauls, especially when it comes to their specialization. Because, come on, that's pretty weak.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I think to kind of piggyback off your point, companions feel lackluster.
Yeah, Zoo Druid was not a viable option. Like that's not happening.
It took forever for Zoodruid to become a viable thing within Diablo 2. You know, that didn't happen until Resurrected. I was hoping that the companions would have a little more oomph to them. Wolves,
I do
they,
I do find it really funny though that the druid had an ability to send their pets at an enemy and Necros did not. I thought that like little bit of a design flaw there, right? Like so I can click a button and throw my wolves at these guys, but my my mages and my skeletons for my Necro just got free for all, YOLO. Go hit what you want, right? No big deal. Have we not learned the lesson from the last 2 Diablo games, 3 Diablo games? Like, give us the option to fucking target attack mobs. Diablo 3's Necro was great for that reason. That needs to come in for Necro, but that's the next conversation. So
we're gonna get there.
yeah.
But I want to bag on Druid companions. I'll join you on this one.
Yeah.
I went with the wolves early on as like an body to kind of soak, but like it didn't. I I wasn't keenly aware that the companions were doing much. Right? Played with ravens. I played with a vine creeper. It just it's missing something. Like it just needs more viability. Like when I jumped onto my necro, and I didn't play a necro to 25. I only played it to like 17, but like even the Book of the Dead to be able to customize a little bit for how I want my skeletons to be or what I want to do with them, that's pretty sweet. Like I don't know if having 3 wolves would make it better, right? But just clicking a point, I get some wolves that don't do much. It felt wrong. Like it needs another look to make because that is a whole section. You're waiting and then you get it and then kind of nothing. I would like the companions to have a little more weight to them. That would be good, especially since we have to wait so long to actually even get them. That if they're able to be a little bit more viable, that would be nice.
Well, and I will say again, this is 1 to 25, right? I do think that the ability, because the druid does have an ability to stack fortify a lot easier than a lot of other classes, and fortify is a pretty significant affix, especially when it comes to survivability, but also translating into damage later. I know the barb, specifically with upheaval, can really channel that fortify into some strong damage, later in the game. I'm hoping the druid can do the same, right? Like you run in, you pop Earthen Bulwark, fortifies you, and then you just toss a boulder and just murder an entire lane of enemies. Like that could be cool. But the context that we have in this little microcosm beta, Druid was definitely the slowest class, the weakest class, and the only class that I had to make myself get to 25. Like I hit 16 and I'm like, okay, I've got the specialization. Do I really give a shit to get through this? And I heard you in the back of my head going, no, dude, you got to give it a fair shot, right? So I finished it out, but it was the hardest. Whereas like I literally leveled 4 sorcerers, right? Like,
Yeah,
that's a whole different thing. So
I think that's fair. It's still my day one. Like
sure,
I I think one of the big things with this beta is understanding what can change and what can't. And I think what we're seeing a
yeah,
lot on the forums right now is this general outcry, and I'm not going to buy this game unless this is fixed, without understanding that no, this kind of is the game. Like what you're seeing in
right.
front of you, it's going to be expanded on. But
Tweaks,
like in talking with when we did our interview with Jay, and I'm sure he'll reiterate it when we bring him back, but the game is set. They can't change all this. Like we talk about the Druid right now, there's some number tweaks that could happen, right? They could
right?
tweak
You can
some
turn some
numbers,
knobs.
but we
Yeah, for
can't
sure.
add a new skill. We couldn't give them a Book of the Dead type feature, and we don't honestly know what the Druid's spirit boons do yet. Maybe they have that option, but um, the game is kind of set. But I will state that with all of these classes, one of the other critiques is that the skill tree is more like I've read this a skill twig, right? That it just doesn't have the depth. But when I look at it, you can view it as a twig if you want, but it also has a lot of points for expansion, right? This is a game that's going to continue to evolve. And if this is the core that it starts at, I'm very optimistic for how it moves forward. If we look at like Path of Exile, that game started, and the skill tree is expansive, but they've added more and more to it, right? And the complexity has grown. So if we're starting a little bit smaller here, I'm still relatively optimistic that in seasons, years, this will expand to that point. It's a point of growth. So it's more of a sprout, if you will.
That's Sprout.
Um, it will get to something. And I get where some people might be frustrated that they're not catching this immediate complexity, but I think it does have those points for growth. And I'm still locked in on Druid. It would be my main, and I'll play the other ones, but it's the style I like.
Sure.
Okay. Nineball, you've been noticeably silent. Any zingers? Did you write down a couple of jokes? A couple
I think you got you pretty good in the intro. I
uh
I don't know how I'm gonna follow that one. I mean, really, honestly, all that it is like, of course, there's two lines of thought going through my head, and it's pretty much it's just 1 to 25, which is where we'll be spending a very small amount of time in the game at, so it won't matter all that much. What the classes played like at level 25 matters nothing compared to what it will be at the end game when we have uniques, which are unlocked at a higher world tier. There was a tweet from one of the developers that was talking about another type of item beyond uniques at even higher item levels and such that we could potentially go through and find. So there's like a lot of we talked about it last week. The tweet from Daniel Briggs, about the modifying skills and such. There's the whole Paragon board and all other type of stuff. There, we haven't even accessed the full complement of ways to customize your character's skills and output and such. The other line that I'm going down is that, if especially for someone that's playing the game for the first time, is trying to take in the story, that's getting through the whole game is going to take a couple of hours just to finish Act 1. And if that whole experience is slow and painful, they're not going to want to play a druid. They might put down the game entirely. It's like, oh well, if all the other classes are going to play like this, then why even bother? So I think it is one of those ones where it's like there are some things that should be addressed with early game druid, skill balancing and such. But I don't think but that's more so for the people that are just the new people that are trying it out for like the first time, in order to give them a reason to continue playing, as opposed to just it being a bad experience, for that early game for people that aren't a druid enthusiast like Xanth. But at the same time, I also acknowledge that it means absolutely nothing for class balance later on.
Right. And I think that's the point, right? Is like we want that experience to be good for all classes. I think at the beginning, like it should be a relatively. I mean, look, let's be honest. Like I'm not a game developer, obviously, right? But you would think that at that low of a level, with the numbers being as low as they are, it should be easy to tune to make it feel a little better. So if that's a possibility, it'd be great to see them kind of make a pass at it. That is not the objective of this beta. The objective of this beta is to really stress test the servers. But look, it's a live service game, right? There's going to be massive sweeping changes. There was massive sweeping changes to Diablo 2 and Diablo 3. None of those classes or characters or anything like that play anything like they do now back when it launched. And I will say, aesthetically, it was really fun to play the druid. Like shifting in and out of forms and smacking stuff was cool. If I had not played any other class, I wouldn't have felt it as bad. I will say I had a buddy who started on druid first, played it to about level 12, and really enjoyed it. And then they played a necro and were like, "What the fuck? Why am I ever playing anything else?" So for me, it's that was kind of the other side of it too. So I just hope that experience is good for druid players, even if it is the lesser than class. I still want my fur buddies to come along with me. So
I will point out, one of the one of the bigger class criticisms last week before the druid, before the necromancer?
Like general public wise,
Which class was the weakest last week?
I think people were saying Barb, right?
Right.
Yeah.
What do the Barb and Druid have in common? And
They're
this
melee.
this isn't a lore question because we could go
So's
into
the
lore.
rogue. The rogue's melee too.
It's that
And honestly,
hybrid.
the barbarian, like upheaval's not a melee skill, and neither is half of the druid's toolkit either. It has nothing to do with melee. Not.
Yeah, I want to say it isn't even so much upheaval, but it definitely was going through and playing against bosses with the sorceress, necromancer, and barbarian. That you could, even if the barbarian was doing as much damage as the necro or sorceress, it was just far more of a pain actually having to like dodge mechanics and have bosses that constantly ran away from you. Whereas the range classes just kind of stood, am I standing in something? No, attack. Where the barbarian is constantly having to reposition, shift, and all that other types of stuff. Whereas the experience from the other two was definitely
that
easier.
Was not my experience. So like with my Barb, boss fight starts, I run up to them, I popped one of my defensives, and then 3-shot the boss. So like and same with the sorcerer. I wasn't dodging shit. I dropped a Hydra, dropped another Hydra, chain lightning, and popped a ice armor or a fire armor, and I did not dodge shit. Right? Like you could very easily get your gear to a point where you could just tank every mechanic that was coming at you, except for that goddamn fear mechanic, which again, fear does not belong in Diablo. It's stupid. I hate that. At least you could dodge it now with the pentagram, so that's fine. But I don't know. I didn't experience that as much. I think that especially with the Barb just got to a point where like, I mean, even on a Shava, my buddy, like, I would get swiped and have to like pop potions and oh my god, don't die, right? My Barb buddy's just like destroying it. So I think it's probably case by case and on how much people have played those classes in previous games, but I don't know. I didn't.
Oh, I
Even
mean,
on-
the just from what you're going through and saying, the case by case basis is: are you just going through and playing through the story as it's given to you versus going back and doing bosses after being fully geared?
Sure.
Those are two very different experiences.
Right, but actually, the experience that I had was I didn't even do the story. Like I would get to like the third part of the story, and then I would just go spam dungeons. And so like spamming those dungeons and then going back through the story, yeah, it made it really easy. But I mean, even playing through the story, even on World Tier 2, I did not experience a lot of challenges, and I didn't lose any hardcore characters, and I'm not a hardcore player. It was not Ashava was the only thing that really killed any of my characters. Unless I just played stupid, that was a whole different thing. But
oh yeah, the trick to Ashava is just stand directly underneath her.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. That was a trick. Avoid 100% of the mechanics. Just stand.
Well,
stand right between the thighs.
It's a little more nuanced than that, but yeah, as she moves around so much, that can be difficult, and especially as a sorcerer who's specializing in damage afar, like that can be a little more challenging. You can cheese the shit out of her by standing off screen and just throwing hydras at her, though. So there's that too, but yeah, I don't know.
There. I'm just saying maybe Melee needs a look, but whatever. It's fine. It's fine. I'll sit here and still play Druid regardless. So there is a second class that was introduced to much more glowing reviews. Everybody loves the Necromancer.
As is tradition.
Look, I'm playing a Necro right now in D2. It is great. I enjoy it. I'm not bagging on the Necromancer. I did not get to play as much with the Necromancer. I was very invested in just playing as much Druid as I possibly could. But on the last day, I dove in. And turns out it's pretty enjoyable, guys. Not sure if you're aware. Kind of fun. Fun class. Moves real quick.
Welcome to what the rest of Diablo feels like. It's kind of amazing, actually.
It's just like you just kill stuff real fast.
Yeah. Right out the gate, too. Like, without even... Don't need items, throw on a blue chest piece and a white weapon and go fucking blow something up.
Now, before we go into Necro, I'm curious. Last weekend, did both of you get all of the altars?
Hell no. I give zero shits about doing any of that. In the live game, too. But that's a whole different conversation.
You had your renown points, so you were starting with skills, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I did that, but I'm not going to get the Mokoko seeds of Diablo 4. I don't give a fuck.
I will state that I did kind of like that.
Yeah, Nerdwards, the noted power gamer, is giving up stats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it comes down and I'm that bored, I'll do it. But like, I don't play Diablo to go walk around and click every little thing in every little corner. Like, story-wise, sure, right? Loot-wise, sure. But like, I don't want to go hunt down fucking 28 altars in one zone, and there's 5 zones. Fuck you. I got better shit to do with my time. I don't need 2 strength on my sorcerer. I play a sorcerer. I will get the ones I gotta get for my sorcerer to be just max potential. The rest of them can fuck themselves. I'm good.
I will state though, I did like starting a new character with that little bit of a boost. Like I've got a few extra stats.
Let me ask you this: do you always do the life potion in Diablo 2 and Act 3?
Yes.
I literally haven't done that since like 2007. So
it usually
20 hit points.
Like it happens.
Yeah, it's
right?
like one of those ones. It just happens. Yeah.
Oh no, I won't even walk to Alcor. Fuck Alcor. I'm not even gonna walk over there. I got better things to do. I'm that petty.
Just I'd like to envision you rolling up in Act 3. Just be like, no.
I have definitely I'd find the Gid bin
Fuck
every
that
goddamn
guy
time and I'd
in
drop
particular.
it right back on the ground. Yep, nope, totally good. Alcor, he's an asshole too. He is not polite. Not a fan.
You do have to, like, you give them the potion, then you have to wait, and then you have to talk to them again.
That's like 8 seconds. I'm good.
Wow. I didn't I didn't think anyone dislikes the Alcor quest that much.
Yo, sound off in the comments because I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not.
Like 20 health is 20 health. I'll take that. I didn't like I never almost like I almost never do the Lamb Essence Tomb one because I just distracted
Same.
in Act 3.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So same difference right there, right? Like
But like
I'm not doing those.
but Nerdwards, it literally drops for you. You just go. Like I didn't have to seek out. It's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then you gotta go walk around Act 3. My goal is to get in and out of Act 3 as soon as possible and come back only for Mephisto and Lower Karos runs. That's it. My goal is to get out of that goddamn jungle as fast as possible and to not talk to any NPCs I don't have to. And I don't have to
So,
talk to Alcor if I don't do that. So
side note, I was and we're gonna get. I promise we'll get to the Necromancer at some
sorry,
point.
totally derailment. Yeah.
But I did. I've been playing a Necro on the treadmill lately. I just had to go through the maggot lair with a summoner.
Rough.
It
Yep.
Yeah, it sucked so much. And I could. You want to know how many miles I could run to get through the maggot lair? It was almost 5 miles.
Tough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And we thought doing the maggot layer was bad. Nine. This motherfucker's running a
Doing on the
marathon
treadmill,
while
yeah.
doing it. No, thank you. Hard pass. I'm good.
yeah. I put this out on Twitter. I normally on my long run days will go to an indoor track, so I can I'll play a little bit in the morning, then up until like 6:30, and then get there and do the rest of it. But it was so snowed in, and my mileage for the day was 26. So you got to do what you got to do. Uh, but 5 of those miles were in the maggot lair because it took forever. Okay. But you know what doesn't take forever? The Diablo 4 Necromancer. So let's talk about that. Neinball, it's your time to shine.
I mean, what is there to say besides hashtag best class?
Not about that,
know,
but all right. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, it fulfilled everything that you needed to do. You start the game. It's kind of interesting because whereas like a lot of the other classes, they'll have like their class skill. Like you'll have like your class mechanic or whatever. You either have to like wait a couple of levels to unlock it, or go on a quest, or like the barbarian, like the expertise just kind of like unlocks. The sorceress, you have to go on a quest to unlock, enchanting. The druid was, locked out. And the rogue also, I think, was like level 15 or something. The necromancer just starts with skeletons. They're just right there. Like you just kind of have them out the gate, And so just being able to like go through and just like my party's already here. We're ready to go. It just was, it was like a little weird. That it kind of like had that boost, and so they had the ability to just like kill anything and not struggle at all, just right out the gate. All the problems that we're having with the druid in the previous discussion just
Not a
didn't
problem with
exist for the
Necro.
necromancer
Or any other class, but yeah.
Yeah, it was just yeah, it did good. It did good. It didn't have it's the spender generator, felt fine, especially
Yep.
like later on in levels where I barely even touched my generator because I was using corpse explosion to regain essence.
So good.
It's like you just throw out one bone spear, like 5 things die, and then you hit corpse explosion, and everything else on the screen dies, and it refills all of your essence to recast bone spear for the next pack. So it's like it just played fine without any like I think you alluded to this earlier, just without any legendaries. Like it did well, because
Yep.
I think like in my playthrough of the Necromancer, I had again like really bad legendary luck, and like my first couple of ones were like you gain health regen for every enemy that's close. You gain what was it? You get your core skills gain damage when you have a barrier up. I was like, huh? I don't have a barrier. Like, so it's just like I had really bad luck before I got anything, and then I got like I think my first legendary that I found was you can summon 2 extra skeletal mages, and it was just like perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I obviously I'm not a necro main. That is Nine's foyer. But I definitely enjoyed it. I would say it was probably my 3rd favorite class. but it was really strong. Like you said, right out of the gate, Bone Spear felt so good. God, like I liked Bone Spear builds in Diablo 2. But man, Bone Spear in Diablo 4 feels incredible. It felt really good. Corpse Explosion always is great, but it felt really good. Oh my god. And Blood Nova. Blood Nova was just disgusting. It was super good. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed playing the Necro a lot. It was one of my fastest 1 to 25s, but I'd already done so many 1 to 25s at that point. There's some of that was probably just like kind of knowing exactly what I wanted to do to try to rush through it, but yeah, I definitely enjoyed it myself. I will play a Necro in live, but it'll be like a class I probably get to max level, mess with the gear a little bit, and then go back to my main. But definitely a lot of fun for sure. Definitely a lot of fun.
So, and it also was one of those ones that just had like a bunch of like varied viable builds.
Yeah,
you kind of like
skills that worked well.
Yeah, like obviously, like you could kind of do anything with everything. Even the druid, you could just kind of like throw some skills together and be able to like clear stuff once you had the right items for it. But like there were definitely builds that just felt better. That felt more refined.
Windshear was shit. I'm sorry, Windshear was shit. Every basic for the Necro worked. 2 of them for the druid kind of worked, and really one of them really worked. The other ones were not good. But you're right. Like Necro, like every ability had a good spot and felt good.
Yeah, and it would be like you had like the one legendary that made Blood Mist trigger Corpse Explosion.
Gross. Gross.
Just like just obscene.
Yeah.
I had like I had the legendary that made Bone Spear. Bone Spear made every single enemy vulnerable. Everything that touched became vulnerable, and it literally was just like
broken.
Yeah, because it literally is just like the skill is already pushed in terms of damage, and then like you just shoot out like 2 Bone Spears. Anything that didn't die is now taking like 20% extra damage. Though Corpse Explosion
on top of that on your pieces too.
Exactly.
Which just gets dumb. Yeah, it was.
I think I was at like like plus 18% on like vulnerable damage or something like that. So almost like 40% extra damage on hitting like vulnerables. And then on top of that, Corpse Explosion had one of its passives to increase its vulnerable damage by another 10% on top of that as well.
You just made me think, and I'm not trying to get off the topic of Necro here because Necro is where we're at, but one fix for the Druid, because Maul did that. Maul made enemies vulnerable. The problem with Maul was that it hit so few enemies. If they could widen the range of Maul to where you could really hit more, I mean, it already had a pretty good range, but if you could drop it like another 2 or 3 yards beyond that first wave, that might be enough to fix it. Because that's the thing we didn't talk about the Druid. The Druid did have a lot of support potential with its overpower and vulnerable and fortify like affixes you could kind of get really easily. That was probably the biggest plus out of the Druid I saw. But with the Necro, you're right. Like you could, I mean, it wasn't even just Bone Spear. You could pick a couple different skills and just like vulnerable the whole screen. Like and that applies to your party, right? So you vulnerable that whole screen. Now I'm doing more damage. The Barb's doing more damage. The Rogue's doing more damage. The Druid's still doing more damage, but so it's just it is Necro felt very good, very strong.
Very strong. As a side note there, Neinball, so you've played a Necromancer in every iteration of Diablo that's possible.
Yeah.
Where would you rank this one?
Ooh.
So what's your ranking of Necromancers in the Diablo series?
Ooh. So this one definitely felt good. It's really hard to place it because you don't have like the in-game viability. We don't have
everything.
I really enjoyed the way that the skeletons and the pets worked, where it was one button to go through and summon both the skeletons and the mages. But then you got the golem, and then it felt bad because it's like I have to give up a skill for this other thing. It's like I have to give up 2 buttons, so I'm only really playing with 4 skills, and I still have the same amount of skill selections as all the other classes in my talent tree. But I have to go out of my way to like not pick other things. So it's like if I wanted to use Corpse Tendril and Corpse Explosion, that's it. That's my build. But I've gotten I guess I've gotten very spoiled in Diablo Immortal because Immortal gave you the ability to control all of your pets. Golem, the skeletons, not so much the mages, but they're just kind of like they hit everything on the screen anyways. to not have the ability to control where my pets are going, and like going through, and even though like I didn't need my pets, but theoretically, if I was playing if I was playing like something that just purely focused on summons, and I'm attacking a boss, and then the boss spawns ads, and then watching my skeletons break off of the boss and go and hit the ads was just like, no, attack that one,
Yeah. Yep.
attack that one.
That was something
that
that I
was
watched happen. We're doing an event. There's a giant elite, and there's
yeah.
one little guy. And all of my buddies' skeletons and mages and golem are fighting this one little guy, and he's standing next to the elite. And it's like,
Yeah.
can we just at least get some smart targeting, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's definitely an opportunity for sure.
Yeah. So as good as they feel, even like you had the skeletal priest, you
Yeah.
know, so that way it had the button still had effect at while when you were maxed out. You could just keep hitting corpses, which is also one of the big flaws in both Diablo 3 and Immortal, is that if you didn't use any corpse skills, corpses were useless. They just cluttered your screen, and you felt as if you were using a resource on the ground or just leaving something there. With the Necromancer, even if you never spec'd into a single corpse skill, you could still use that one button and buff your minions, and you were using corpses, and it didn't feel like you were wasting an entire aspect of the class.
Yeah.
You know, everything just felt really nice, really polished. There's a few just little minor, you know, quality of life stuff. You know, like I want to be able to target with the pets. It's something that I've been able to do with the last 2 iterations of the Necromancer. It was like the big thing that even though like skeletons aren't really viable in Diablo 3, you know, they just are a damage buff. They don't kill things on their own. But just the fact that you can pick, you know, where you're attacking. And then in Immortal, they're actually like really, really viable. They're very good. And it's just like it sucks giving up that ability. It feels as if we moved on from the Diablo 2 Necromancer, not having to just Enigma teleport next to something and hope that the AI latches onto that, right? And now we kind of like lost that, and we don't have an Enigma to teleport next to a monster. Even if you did, they run off and attack like the Blood Orb or something. Yeah, that's my only complaint that I had with the Necro. Otherwise, everything felt really good. Necromancer definitely feels as if it needs like an extra button, or the class mechanic needs to be a button separate from the skill bar, or put the golem into the raised skeleton mage button as well. Somehow make it work. I don't know what it is, but I really felt the difference with the Necro that I was playing with fewer buttons, because the golem I felt just wasn't worth the button press most of the time. So for a lot of the later part of the game, I ended up just sacrificing my golem and running an additional skill.
I think, not to divert from the Necromancer, you know, there's more to talk about apparently, but one of the criticisms that been levied against Diablo 4 is what you're kind of bringing up here, Neinball, is the crowding of skills and having such a limited option to choose from. Is that something that you guys would like to see expanded, having more options for skills?
This is a slippery slope that probably requires more texture than we want to give right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. But that's me. If they gave more, I don't think that's a problem though. If there was ability to give more to everyone else. But honestly, what you said about the Necro was the same problem with every class. There's one ability. There's one there's one ability that you do to get the resource to do your damage. There's one you have to do damage, and everything else is filler. Either it's defensive or it's utility or mobility or whatever it is. But no one was like casting like, okay, I want to do like big damage to this guy, so I'm going to use this ability. I want to do big damage to this guy, so I'm going to use this other ability. It's not like Diablo 2 where you had to spec into 2 different trees because of immunities and stuff. So you basically pick an ability and just rock that ability. So I don't see a need in that, but I do think that like he's saying, the toolkit for the Necro is so big. There's so many things you can kind of do with it. There's probably some opportunity there for that, but they would have to significantly inflate the amount of skills in every class's skill tree, because even with some of the better classes, it got to a point where there wasn't really a ton of options. I mean, that were great options, I should say. There were options for sure, but yeah, that's a whole different take. Again, I've got pages that I could talk about, but that's my take on it.
Fair enough. Okay, so back to the necromancer then. I know I felt like there was a lot of critique about the other class guys. Lots of notes, lots of comments. What else we got for that necro? What else?
I mean, it is terrible design, in my opinion, to have the one class that kind of gave birth to pet classes in Diablo and to not be able to control those pets. That is really dumb. Like, even the fucking druid can tell his wolves who he wants them to attack. They don't do shit at all. They're largely pointless, but at least you can do that. So I think that that's a big missed opportunity. I think that from a summoning necro standpoint, I don't think that fantasy is really fulfilled. You definitely have mobs, but your damage is coming from blood nova, it's coming from bone spear, right? There's so many different things that are corpse explosion. No one's like just sending their army at shit and letting it do its thing, which isn't my playstyle anyways, but that is definitely a necromancer fantasy. And there is, like, right now, realistically, in Diablo 4, there are no pet classes. There's two, but neither of them really saw that flesh out. Now, mind you, this is 1 to 25. There were definitely some things that gave you more skeletons and stuff as you went on. They gave you a bigger army, but a bigger army doesn't mean anything if you can't control what it's doing. So that has got to be addressed. And again, Diablo 3, I thought did a good job with that. Like you said, it wasn't like your skeletons are doing the damage, right? But it gave really good like buffs and things that like kind of worked with other builds and gave it some relevance. Plus, it was just cool to smack a button and watch all of your skeletons just like overhand swipe with a giant blade, right? That's sick. That fantasy was not in Diablo 4, which might be intended, might be something that they iterate on a bit later. I don't know, but from 1 to 25, it didn't exist. And let's be honest, 1 to 25 should be a free, open area of the game to do whatever the hell you want. It's low level, everything should be easy enough to where you can just do that. But there's other reasons why I don't think that's possible too. But it's a whole different conversation. So.
I mean, and like the groundwork is there. There are tons. Every one of your nodes has like besides the obviously the basic and the core skills. Once it progresses past that, like the defensive tree ends up having or the curses, the curses tree ends up having plus the life and damage to skeletal warriors. Then the macabre one is like plus damage to skeletal mages. Then there's the plus damage to your golem. Then like the ultimates has like a whole big tree of like 5 different passives of specking into your pets. And then like the ultimate passive that we didn't have access to at level 25. There was another one for pets. Like so you could put all of those like into the pets, buff them and such. And I went through and I played around with like the max skill points on skeletal mages and the skeleton warriors themselves, and didn't really feel as if it made that big of a difference as opposed to just like putting 2 skill points into bone spear. That one felt like it had more of an impact than anything else. And the other side of it is that the way that it looked like in the system, and this might change later on in the game, but there was never any items that I'd seen across any of the classes that gave benefits to passive skills. They only and I'm not talking about like legendary fixes, but I mean the items would give like +1 rank to macabre skills, +1 rank to bone spear,
skills,
so you had categories and you had the specific skills themselves. I didn't see any that had like plus bonuses to summoning. Though the summoning, the skeletons and such were outside of the skill tree, so there's no way to pump the skills in them besides the passives. I never saw anything in the game that gave a bonus to any passive skill whatsoever. So you're really limited to just what you have to put the points into, whereas everything else goes to 11. As it were, you cap at your 5 points that you put into it, and then as we saw like the tweet last week, you can get up to like plus 16, 17, 18. You can get up to rank 18 on most other skills with a various combination of items at in game, whereas your skeletons are still just skeletons.
Yeah, I will say though that I think, well, that's probably more for a systems thing that we'll talk about later, so I won't talk about that right now. But I do think that, there's just some definite room to improve the zoo ability of a necro. I do like that it didn't like murder my computer, so that's nice. Like every other
Yeah.
Diablo game ever, Necromancer, especially when it first pops up, just murders everyone's.
Legromancer, I believe. Legromancer.
Yeah, for sure.
I
But
I I
and it was
definitely
it was a
recall. Oh,
well,
I was just gonna say, I definitely recall the early days of Diablo 2 where
oh
necromancers were
god,
not wanted in a game because,
yeah,
like, no,
dude,
we don't want to crash. You know.
yeah, terrible. That was also when we had like literally like 16 megabytes of RAM, like what
I
or
just
whatever.
I just got myself a Radeon, 9800. I'm just gonna spam Bone Wall and crash everybody else in
Yeah.
the Veil party so I can get
Yeah.
the loot.
Terrible. But no, I'm not a Necro main. Necro was awesome. It was definitely my third favorite class. And I do think that Necro at the like once you get fully fleshed out gear, hit max level, things like that, I do think Necro has the potential to be the highest damage in the game based on how some of their skills interact with each other, especially the vulnerable piece. But we'll kind of have to see how it shakes out. Yeah, I don't know.
I want to go. You're ending on like happy notes about the. Let's just shit on the necromancer more. No, I'm
What do I
kidding.
got?
It's totally fine.
No.
Because we don't have that kind of time.
Ah,
If anybody's wondering what my favorite list is, it goes Druid, 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 Druid,
Did you
and
play
Druid.
any other class?
Yes, I did play all of them.
You did. Okay,
Yeah.
got you.
No, so I
Got you.
and I enjoyed all of them. Um, if I was like Druid is going to be my number one. I really enjoyed the Rogue. I really enjoyed playing the
It
Rogue
was
last
really
weekend.
good.
You
Like
know,
that was fun.
I've just remembered of the quote, there can be no despair without hope.
This is,
Yeah,
this is true.
it's yeah.
Rogue was my number 2. Rogue was my second favorite class. Rogue was really, really good, for
No,
sure.
I had a blast in hardcore with Rogue, especially as just kind of still figuring it out, like being stealthy, having shit gear,
But
and
see again,
I
penetrating
think
shot, twisting
so.
blade,
Yeah,
shadow step. I could list 5 abilities right now that were better than every fucking ability the druid had. Right? Like they hit harder, did more. I don't mean that as a shot. It's not your fault or druid fandom's fault. It's bad design.
yes, it is.
it is actually.
No, it's not your fault, Xanth. It's just not well designed.
Is this
It feels
Goodwill
like
Hunting? Are we going
you
through a
know
good?
what
It's not your fault. It's not your
I would be
fault.
curious. I would be curious, and I mean this in all seriousness and with all due respect. Was
Well,
Druid?
this
I
this
wonder.
is never good. Whenever you have to lead in with
Oh
all
yeah,
due
it never
respect.
is.
Remember, I
But
said
with
with all due respect.
I would love to, and we'll never know because we're never going to get this information. But I would love to know what the last class they developed was, because it feels like the Druid. It feels like it was kind of tacked on a little bit. And again, plenty
I
of time to iterate. But man, it doesn't feel great.
I want to say it actually for me it's reversed. It feels like the druid was the first class that they made because then they learned lessons as they progressed on.
Maybe so. And you know what?
Because
With the amount that it shapeshifts in and out, you're probably right because there's probably a lot of complicated coding that goes into how it interacts with the environment and mobs. And again, probably the coolest part about the druid and my favorite part of any class in the game was it shapeshifting and being covered in blood and guts. That was amazing. It just needs to be functional too, right? So there's that. It's tough.
So that's fair. Okay, so we are already going pretty long. And we're not doing a
Sure.
2 hour. We're not doing a 2 hour podcast today, folks. We're not doing that because we got to milk this for 2 more months. So we'll stretch these conversations.
We gotta have something to do, right?
Yeah, can't play Diablo anymore. Diablo
I
4
mean,
anyway.
there's a plethora of Diablo games you can still play. I was about to say there's
But
a plethora of Diablo
but
games to still play. Diablo 3
they
Season's still live. Diablo 2 Ladder is still live. Immortal's probably doing something worth doing at some point.
they don't
Hell,
hit
I'll
the
go
same.
play Diablo 1. No, they don't. They definitely don't.
So, and like
Um,
that's the hard part. So I did
yeah.
ask, as we're getting to the end here, and we've probably dropped a bunch, right? But have you encountered any shit takes as of late with Diablo 4?
I
How
got
about you?
two.
You got two. What do you got?
Okay. So Obviously, we have to go through and give a special shout out to all of the Diablo 2 purists that exist out there that will literally never play another game besides Diablo 2. That are I guess they're not. I guess they're props to them because they're not even like really trying to hide it anymore. Because they start all of their posts with, in Diablo 2 or something along those effects. That is like, okay, we get it. Diablo 2 for the rest of your life. But it's like I'm so disappointed that this game is not Diablo 2. That's like the absolute worst shit take. And it annoys me having to go through and read like a page, paragraph after paragraph after paragraph that could just be like paraphrased as it's not Diablo 2, therefore I hate it. And it's just like it's a 1 to 25 take. It's like 2, Diablo 2 itemization is not what you think it is. If you absolute horseshit compared to like what Diablo 2 is. And it's just like one of those ones where it's like they're like, I don't know. Some of these people I don't even think play Diablo 2. Because they've turned it into this thing that it honestly is not.
Sure. Look, I will say that's kind of a hot take because I love Diablo 3. Whenever any Diablo 2 content creator, streamer, or whatever talks about playing Diablo 4, because I could tell you before you play the game you're going to hate it.
Yeah,
it's not Diablo 2, and that's okay, right? Diablo 2 exists. Like,
yeah.
and I don't agree with your itemization comment because Diablo 2's itemization isn't. It is for the time one of the most interesting itemizations because it made everything relevant. Items, blue, yellow items. Like everything Diablo 2 is relevant in some capacity, and that is not the case in any other RPG like that. So I think that I don't agree with that, but I do think for expecting Diablo 2, you're an idiot. Games have evolved since 1999, and they should have evolved since 1999. Diablo 2 will always exist. Go play that thing. I will. I'm playing the latter myself, right? It's a great game. Diablo 4 will be very different.
Yeah, I'm not saying that Diablo 2's itemization isn't good. I'm just saying that it's not what people bring it up. Blue items aren't relevant. But it's like
crafting. They are for crafting.
Sure, for like crafting and such, but then you don't actually like
but
care.
That's a
you
huge
just want
part of every class. So,
but you just want a blue item. I just want blue shark hide gloves. I don't care about
belt if you want the caster belt. Or there's a lot more.
It's not like I'm going through and looking out and I'm like checking every single blue item and looking at its stats and trying to figure out what it's useful
rings.
Or not.
I'm picking up blue amulets and rings every single time. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I think the reason why Diablo 2 is hailed like that is one, obviously massive cult following that affected our childhood.
Yeah, because it's like one of those ones with people going through and like trying to say that it's like is faster hit is maxing your faster hit recovery. Sure, it's important, but is that like interesting as a mechanic? No.
No.
No. It's like the people going through and talking about like all the stats and itemization systems and stuff like that. When like sure, like blue items are useful for the small like percentage of the gameplay that could very well easily be done with like yellows. And
sure.
then blues are no longer useful.
Sure.
It's making you take more time of having to go through and look at other stuff. And this isn't to say like every single Diablo 2 and I'm not even talking about Diablo 2 content creators because like Mr. Llama brought up like some really good points. In some of his like feedback and such that he had going through and talking about like Diablo 4. But it's just the regular like shit poster on Reddit that's just going through and trying to go through and post, well, it's not Diablo 2, so therefore I hate it.
The first problem is you're on Reddit. That is where old Caucasian men go to just jack each other off. You should not go there ever. Just leave that alone.
Neinball, you said you had another.
That was just one shit take.
That was just
that was just one shit take. The second one is I guess to summarize like sex in Diablo. There's again, as we just went through and we were talking about like my first mistake is I'm on Reddit. There's a post on Reddit where someone went through and they checked every single corpse in the entire beta to try and find boobs, dicks, and vagine. And they're just like, oh, despite the developers, trying to censor Diablo, I still found genitalia in the game. And it's just like, it's this whole thing because like they decided to like, give succubuses in Diablo 2 a shirt. And everyone was just like, oh, censorship, this all sucks. It's like, besides the point that no one wanted to say anything, to props to this guy for actually going and finding a dick too, because like all those people that were complaining about like censorship in Diablo 2 Resurrected, none of them mentioned anything about the penis on Bale's minions. That wasn't a tail, that was a dick. Specifically, you can check the concept art. No one was complaining about missing that.
Hold on.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
When I asked for shit takes, I was not
Those are some shit takes. He's also perusing the droves of Reddit for these shit takes. It's not hard to find them. They're like every other fucking post. So
they are every other fucking post. But no, it's like someone
you just stay away from Reddit. Just stay away from Reddit.
Someone was legitimately upset that there's censorship in Diablo 4. That there's all this violence, but you're too afraid to show genitalia. What gives, Blizzard? Like, come on, man.
So for the basement trolls out there that don't understand what ratings are, by covering nudity, you lower the rating of the game and make it more accessible to bigger, wider audiences, which then gives it more commercial success and better sales. So
I'm not done.
Oh, there's more.
Because it's also one of the highest engaged posts on the actual official Diablo 4 forums is, why doesn't my female necromancer have any breasts whatsoever? They want a boob slider for character creation. I rest my shit takes.
I don't even need wow. First, I applaud you for finding that.
I didn't go looking for it. It's the second most engaged post on the official forums. It comes up at the top.
Sometimes it's embarrassing to be. God damn it! Oh my god. That's painful.
So when you asked us for this topic, were you expecting this bad of a take?
I didn't even know what you meant by shit takes, but now I get it. I got nothing for you.
That is. Wow.
That's tough. Tough.
I apologize for anybody who's just listening. There's like, what just happened? I feel like I just need a moment to take in the sheer thought of somebody probing through and be like, I'm gonna find a dick. That's like, if I don't, I'm going to be disappointed.
I did see people upset about the fact that all the corpses look the same. Which, do they not understand that just makes the design easier to facilitate different things for the necro? Like,
did they play? Or you're talking about the corpse mechanic of the necromancer, not the visual corpses,
not the visual corpses, but the ones you interact with. But like, there is no revive skill, so you don't really need to have specific corpses that do specific things, and that's, I imagine from a design standpoint, really.
I can get that. There's a huge actual design philosophy that goes into that when they change from a simulated 3D game that is Diablo 2, that it's actually like 2D, actual 3D game of being able to just have a interactable sprite of the monster's corpse, versus being able to do like ragdoll physics on the corpse to give realistic deaths and then have it mutate into another interactable thing. That goes in. There's like development talks and stuff about like the druid and how much of a pain shape-shifting is from the coding and art side in order to transform one object into another. It's not worth the amount of time that it takes to do that. Because even if it's the same item, triggering states for corpses is huge. It's really difficult. And for those that want to know, corpses in Diablo 4 as well as in Diablo 3 and in Immortal, they're actually items. They're items that your skill interacts with for corpse explosion and things like that. It's an item that drops that your skill will interact and create an effect from.
Yeah.
That's why only you can see it, no one else can.
Well, and for all these guys and gals, whoever it may be, that are perusing Reddit and really diving in to find demon genitalia in Diablo, just check out the hub, man. Just check out the hub. Take care of your thing. It's all good, right? What are we worried about it in Diablo for? So it's it
We do
doesn't.
need to get sponsors, so I guess that's something.
Hey,
But
let's go.
I'm going to be 100% honest, Neinball. I didn't pay attention to a word you said because I'm still trying to comprehend someone sitting there going around Kiovashed,
It's about
going
the attention.
around the fractured peaks, and like, this is my mission. This is my goal.
Despite that the game is very gory, full of butchered bodies, guts, and dismemberments, the devs are still shy about nudity and censored it across the board, but a few nipples, dicks, and vaginas still slipped into the beta. My man, you really just went around hunting for some titties? I literally zoomed in on every corpse pile in the beta for science. I've seen some shit.
I
The internet circa 2023.
wow, oof.
I think that there's like a pissed off guy that got fired from a Diablo team like years ago that's just like trying to start some shit every time a new Diablo game comes out by just going after the most obtuse fucking arguments ever.
I'm sure that people saw like the whole talks about censorship with Diablo 2 Resurrected. I absolutely loved it when one of the there was some other like content creator out there that went through and was going and posting like a big spree about how censorship is bad in games and it's ruining the original artistic vision, and then tagged the original artists of like the corrupted rogues and like the succubuses from Diablo 2, Phil Shank, and and that guy was like, and when Phil Shank responded, it's like, no, I 100% approve of it. It's like that we were all edgy back then, but that's really doesn't really have. There's really no point to put it in a game and
Why?
a
Why does
modern
it
day game
matter? Right? It doesn't matter at all. It literally matters zero.
So
and again, by reducing nudity, you improve the rating and allow a wider audience to play it, which generates more revenue for the game. It's just like literally like people are just so goddamn stupid.
I think you win, Nonball. I don't think we're gonna find.
Yeah, there isn't a shittier shit take than that shit take.
So
Actually,
I have one that
yeah,
I
let's
want to
say
bring
actually
up.
there might be. All right, what's yours?
So if you were paying any attention during the first week, or not the first week, but during the first day of the beta, there's a streamer, actually Arcane, or actually, yeah, actually Arcane. Um, and she had this lovely moment where she made her female druid, and the female druid body type is a much more realistic female body type than what we see in a lot of video games, right? It's much more true to life. And she had this lovely moment where she could recognize and see herself in a game, right? And that's amazing. That is something that, we all try to do at some point. And as white males, and I say this in particular because I look like a lot of characters, right? Bald dude with a beard is
You're a monk, young Deckard Cain, possibly Lorath. I mean, I could name three off the top of my head right now, brother.
if I get like real jacked and you just put like a red stripe here, you got Kratos, right?
Kratos, right? There you go.
I see myself everywhere to the point where it's almost an expectation, right? But for somebody who doesn't look like this, to be able to see themselves in the game is amazing. We saw that with also like um, the actual skin customization, being able to portray vitiligo in its true form and like have that be something that actually exists. So she has this lovely moment. It gets a lot of attention. And then the streamer Quinn takes that moment and kind of pokes fun of it. And I know he kind of pokes fun of himself of like, but he takes her exact words and he makes a picture of the female druid but puts a clown's head on it, right? And all I can think of is that did it need to be said? Because it's really just taking a fan base that, as we just said, is willing to hunt down corpse vaginas and can be kind of toxic and almost kind of just dumping on a person for having a feeling. And I get like playing into a moment and trying to play on, but it just didn't feel right. And I think the other thing too is Quinn is a much bigger streamer, right? And somebody else got some good attention for a real moment and just kind of shit on that. Like that just feels wrong. And when you could have easily just said nothing. Or, heck,
Yeah.
if you want to do that and like play on that moment, don't take the exact same screen as what she did. Don't like play with it more so it's not because the other thing about that female body type that's being presented is it already was getting negative feedback just for having that moment. And to draw more attention with a community by making fun of it, that just feels real shitty. And that's my shit take.
Yeah. No, I think you might win this one because it's actually like impacting like real people.
Yeah, I think that's the other
Well,
thing too,
so
because she
let me
is a smaller
can I
streamer.
ask a question? Because I have followed this and I don't fully agree because I was there for the context of the situation. But did she get upset about this? Like, was she offended by this? I didn't
Yeah,
Yeah.
see her.
She
yeah.
did. Yeah.
I did not see that. Okay, got it. That sucks.
So
Yeah, that does.
and you are right. There's context when it happens
But
is key, but
yeah.
unfortunately,
Well,
we can't watch
and
every
just so
stream all the moments.
right, I was actually watching Quinn's stream when that happened, and the joke wasn't about her, the body type, or anything like that at all. It was about the fact that he expected Diablo 4 to be really good, and that he's a fucking clown, because he expected it to be good because he did the same thing with Diablo Immortal. Now, mind you, Quinn kind of like toxicity is kind of his shtick, anyways, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like it definitely was not a shot at her. In fact, she was not even a thought in the process at all. But thoughtlessness can also be bad too, right? So and look, if it hurt her feelings, that does suck because she seems really sweet. I don't think it was intended that way, but I also don't think he gives a shit. So there's that too.
Right. I think that's the other part too, is I mean, one, context is missing,
I,
especially in the sake of a tweet.
I
Context goes
yeah, it's also one of those other ones is because the tweet that he then put it out is verbatim a copy of
Yeah.
her tweet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the intent of it, right? It was to take that because
Yeah.
that had gone semi-viral to kind of take that virality and use it in that
Yeah.
context too. And
I
let's
think
be honest, like Caucasian males overreaching is something that happens on the internet every day.
yeah.
It's not good. It sucks, and it really stinks for her because she seems really great, But yeah, I didn't know that part of the context to it, so there's that too.
Yeah. I would say the one thing that out of the shit takes this one at least is correctable.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know,
Right.
because really, especially if what you're going through and saying is that there was a different set of context and it came to that head, type thing that he can always just apologize. It's like it's that
Right.
simple.
Right. Right. But
Obviously there's still damage done, but it's like can at least show empathy.
Right.
right. But I think you did lead into it a little bit. Like his community has a tendency to be a little bit more toxic, and
Yeah,
I
it's kind
think
of what it's yeah, it's kind of
giving
his thing.
giving that group a target, which is already a smaller streamer, even if it is just in this joking manner, it diverts more of that negativity towards her, which, she got a lot of positive attention, but she also got a lot of negative attention for just having a real moment. That, again, that just feels shitty. Because
Yeah.
if you guys didn't know this, women come in different sizes and shapes. It it's surprising, and apparently, they all want to be treated like people. Also, really wild stuff. Really wild stuff. Um, I think the general rule of thumb is just don't be a dick. Anyways, we're ending on shit takes, but well, let's bring back a little bit of that positivity. We are 66 days away from being able to come back and play Diablo. We've gotten a taste, and we've all purchased. Does anybody feel any regret?
No.
I probably already got my money's worth out of the beta. So, I mean, I literally leveled every character to 25 and 3 sorceresses and a hardcore. So, yeah, I think I've already gotten my money's worth out of the beta. Yeah, no, I don't regret it all.
Even though you were forced to play a druid, and that's impressive.
Wasn't forced. I just was thinking about my boy, and I just wanted to have an accurate spread, right?
Right.
I give you a lot of shit for it, so I wanted to give it. I was really hoping to be better.
I think it
But,
still can
you
be.
know,
I think it still can be.
there's yeah, and look, it will be. There is zero chance that it is going to be exactly as it was right now, all the way to max level, and even at launch, right? Even if they don't change anything, it's probably going to change the experience. But you know, the snapshot of the druid was the least powerful. But look, at the end of the day, if you're doing a tier list, someone's got to be at the bottom, right? So, and someone's got to be at the top too. Which, by the way, we have not mentioned. Oh my God, sorceress!
Another podcast
Should
because
have been.
we are running
Should have
out
been
of
on
time.
the. Should have been on the podcast last week.
Oh shit! I know. I was yelling at the podcast as I was listening to it when you guys were on. But yeah, we will talk very soon. But we gotta talk. We gotta talk about this thing.
And we will. But for the time being, we'll end as we always do with a moo.
Moo moo moo
Moo.
moo moo.
Woo.